Hello, everybody. Welcome to the NUFC360 podcast. There's no Mark today, so we're absent any bald people. I'm the host, Stephen. With me today is Ryan and Bo. Guys, I will ask you how you're doing. How are you both doing?
Very well. It's nice to have a host that actually cares about my well-being, Stephen.
Exactly. That's what you get from me. You
I mean,
get
even if I give you a short and
compassion.
snappy answer, you're still asking me how I am. That means more than anything, you know.
Yeah, stern and sort of in-your-face compassion and care from me. That's what you get. So starting off, we're gonna jump right into it. We've actually won a game and played well against a poor side for once in our lives. I think the first time since Wolves that we've played against a side that we should be beating and actually trounced them. 4-0 win over Leicester. Ryan, I'll come to you first. What were your sort of overarching thoughts on the game?
I think you summarised it pretty well with the comment about Leicester. A really, really poor team. I mean, I actually sat here last week and said, okay, they could be dangerous on the break and whatever, and I did kind of expect that going into the game. Given they'd had a couple of positive results, but they were miles off it. And I think that seems to be a recurring theme. I don't want to say, I won't mention Ipswich, but let's say Southampton and Leicester particularly, been some poor performances. And that, I mean, it was just it was a comfortable afternoon, really, wasn't it? I mean, we've had a few problems defensively, but I don't think Shaw and Byrne will have many more comfortable afternoons than that all season. I think Shaw did all right on Bardi, to be fair to him. But it was comfortable. I thought we controlled the game. It was nice to get 4 goals. I was, kind of worrying first half an hour, is it going to be another one of those days? But, I mean, really, it was never really in doubt. I thought, Gordon, Isak, both played very well. Certainly Gordon, I think that was one of his better games in a while. I mean, let's face it, he's probably not up against as good opposition as he normally is, but he still had a good game and he was a threat. Isak getting another goal, and I thought, again, Tonali came into the side and did a good job. He set the tempo. He's just an excellent player, and Hull goes from strength to strength. So positives all around, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's easy to say Leicester were awful, which they were. I mean, in the was it the last episode when I predicted a 2-1 loss, because whenever I predict bad things for us, we tend to play well for some reason. I think we noted that the underlying numbers, they were the third worst side in the league, and I mean we did. I think we mentioned. I don't think we mentioned it in the show. I can't quite remember. We did say that they might actually try and come out and attack us, given they'll have had some confidence from their previous performances aside. They managed to draw late against a good good Brighton side. So they did have some threat. I mean, I think we all came into this game worrying about what Jamie Vardy could have done up against Fabian Schär, given the form of both. I mean, you mentioned some individual players. Obviously, you mentioned Gordon, Tonali, Isak, and Hall there. Bo, coming to you, what were looking at individual performances, who were your particular standouts, and what about their games stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great overall win, but I think Lewis Hall is just showing how consistently brilliant he will be in the future. He's been so good and just consistent. It's been nice to see. It's been nice to see a young player. I feel like we haven't seen this since like Lewis Miley last year or last season. It's been nice to see a young player consistently making good runs, good passes. Not doing anything overly flashy, but just being, doing what they have to do, and having positive results come from it. So he definitely was. I'd say he was right there at man of the match for me. Tonali had a great game as well, and so did Bruno. Even Jacob Murphy, 2 goals. I still think
he could have had 4.
He really should have
at least 4.
Especially that miss that he had. It was that we had a shot blocked, and it was effectively a wide open left hand side of the goal, and he just sort of scooped it round somehow.
Yeah. I don't think he realised how much time he had, because he could have probably taken 2 touches as well. Yeah. I mean, he hit it with his left foot, I think, didn't he? So
yeah, I mean, he definitely didn't have. I mean, you mentioned after the first half hour, we were a little bit sloppy. I think both teams were giving the ball away for fun in the first 30 minutes. And Murphy was one of those. In particular, he was having a poor game to start with. And then, unlike some of our other games where we sort of started quite well and then just collapsed, in this game we started sloppy and then sort of tightened it up and sort of tightening the screws on Leicester.
Yep.
I mean, Bo, you mentioned Hall. I mean, I said after the game, I think he's a superstar already. I think he has to be England's left back for the next decade, barring any injury. Touch wood. But I think he was fantastic. I mean, you mentioned Tonali. He was all over the place. He was, you could tell he was playing with confidence, especially near the end when he tried that really acrobatic flick over the defender's head and then tried to take it on the volley. He's playing with confidence. And as we've seen again, him in the 6, Bruno ahead of him, it just works. That is clearly the way it's going to work. I don't think anyone had a bad game. If Mark were here, and we'll mention him just for Mark's sake, Martin Dubravka had nothing to do. And obviously he did keep a clean sheet, did have a couple of claims in the air. And he could have set out a deck chair and got the little sort of shiny little mirror to get himself a suntan in what little light there was in Newcastle on
He
Saturday.
definitely looks better on the ball than Nick Pope, though. That's for certain.
I will say they're both awful, but But Dubravka doesn't give me anxiety just from a tiny short pass the way that Pope does at the moment, which is to his credit. Yeah, if we can if we can limit a team to 4 shots and giving the keeper nothing to do every game, that's great. But that is Leicester, to be fair. They are horrific. They look like they're probably going to go down at this rate. I mean, we've obviously seen them change manager. They had some good results. Like I said before, we were a little bit skeptical about how this would go, considering their previous results. Talking of some of the standout performers, I think one thing we probably should mention is for once Eddie Howe seemed to get his subs right as well. He didn't bring on Trippier and then move Tino over to the left. I think it probably would have caused a mutiny if he'd brought Hall off in the game. But I mean, Trippier came on, he looked good. We saw Harvey Barnes come on while he didn't score. He caused some problems. Longstaff and Willock both came on, and they were there. They didn't really have time or any need to perform too much, so they were there. William Asula finally got some minutes again. It seems like once in a blue moon that happens, and it's we heard Eddie Howe before the game, didn't we? Sort of bigging him up a bit, saying, "Oh, he's now ready to sort of make an impact in the team and to play a part," which is surely it's only a coincidence that his best mate Callum Wilson goes out injured, and then suddenly Will Asula's getting some minutes. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, 4 goals. I mean, it could have been more. I think, as we say, I think if we were in a run of good games, a run of confidence, we probably could have done a Sheffield. Considering when we beat Sheffield away 8-0, we got about 3.5 to 4 expected goals last season. This game we had 3.79 expected goals. We had 5 big chances. That should have been. I would argue that should have been 5 or 6 minimum, based on the quality of opposition. If we were more on form. But a 4-0 win, it's the shot in the arm against the Leicester side, who the types of teams we've struggled to beat this season. It's the kind of shot in the arm we need going into our next game, which, I mean, Ryan, you mentioned in the last episode that the game coming up now, the Brentford game in the Cup, is arguably the most important game of the season. Would you make any changes to the side, or would you keep the 11 as it was going into that game? And what are your thoughts after Leicester going into Brentford?
It's tough to say, isn't it? I mean, I wouldn't be changing a lot, really. If anything at all, I think I might make 1 or 2 changes. Again, the usual Tonali play 90 minutes in a row. Can Eddie Howe let that happen? We'll find out. But what I think might happen is Joelinton's suspended for the Ipswich game anyway. So it may well be that, he'll take a breather on Sunday. And Longstaff might come in for him on the Sunday, or Willock might come in.
Do you think he might not make Joelinton play again?
No, my argument is Joelinton will play regardless tomorrow on Wednesday. So it may well be Tonali drops out for a Longstaff or something like that. I think Murphy I hope not either, or Longstaff suspended. So he'll not be playing regardless. So Tonali will be playing. Then you would hope
maybe.
But I think Murphy, to be fair to him, frustrating at times. But 2 goals, 2 assists, hasn't he, in his last 2 games? So he deserves to be in there at the minute. And I think he did well to respond, because I think, by the sounds of it, it sounded like there was a few moans and groans around the ground, because he did have a frustrating first 30 minutes. So he did well to turn it around. So yeah, I think he deserves to start. So I'd keep the same side, to be honest.
Yeah, Bo, I mean, we're going up against Brentford, who we like. I think it's been noted that they are the worst team away from home in the league. I mean, you look at all of their games at home this season. They played 9 games away from home. Sorry, they've got 1 win, 1 draw, 7 losses in 9 away games in all competitions. What would you expect from that game in the cup from them, and how well do you think we will perform off the back of Leicester?
Yeah, I'd hope that we're able to take some of that momentum from this past game and use it. Honestly, I would love for Eddie to come out, give everybody a bit of a more attacking directions. I really would hope that within those first 45 minutes we can come out and have a ton of shots on target. Really just pepper their goal as much as possible. Like you said, just based on the facts, they're not good away from home, or they're not as good away from home. And this really is, like Ryan even said, I think this is a make or break game for us. Because the last couple of weeks, we've had 1 week where we played really, really well, and then followed that up with 2 bad performances. And to get bounced from the cup in the quarterfinal would be, a momentous disappointment, especially for the way the season is going. This is a must-win game for us. And it's crazy to say that, because, this is the EFL Cup quarterfinal, and we're 10 games through the season, 11 games through the season, or 16 games through the season. So it's one of those things where I really hope that Eddie comes out and says, hey, let's try and score 2-3 goals in this first half and kind of just coast from there. And we know Brentford are, when they get hot, they're a very, very good attacking team. Mbeumo is a star. And Wissa, even though he's extremely inconsistent, can still score a load of goals. So, I'm hoping that we come out firing. Would love to see a win. And I guess we'll move to predictions eventually. But I really hope that we don't sit back.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, you mentioned they are quite hot at times when they get going. But I mean, you look at their records are stark. It's actually freakish how different they are away from home. I mean, they've not scored more than 1 goal in their 9 games away from home this season in all comps. They've scored 2 or more in 8 of 10 at home this season, and that includes 3 3-goal performances, 3 4-goal performances, and 1 5-goal performance. Like they, like you say, they get red hot at home, and it will be interesting to see how they perform up here. It's hard to look past, I think, the effect that you can have at playing at home. I like to think we wouldn't repeat, a West Ham game and have that kind of flat performance at home. I think the crowd will probably be quite up for it after the Leicester game. There was a bit of anxiety I felt around the stadium going into the Leicester game, and the first sort of 10-15 minutes, it took a little bit of time for the atmosphere to build up a bit. But once it did get going, after about, like I say, 10-15 minutes, it was really loud even before the first goal. At least in the ground, I don't know what it sounded like on the broadcast. But I don't expect there would be that same anxiety going into the Brentford game. And as we know, the players do like to feed off the energy in the ground.
Yep.
And it is a bit of a weapon for us. And I think being at home, I think we've shown in the last couple of seasons, we are pretty good at getting into the latter stages of the League Cup, especially FA Cup less so. Can't wait for us to go up against, was it Bromley? We're going up against former Newcastle man Andy Woodman as the manager. That'll be a fun game to preview when we get to that. But I expect maybe not another 4-goal performance, because I mean, Brentford 10, I think they average about 2 goals against every away game this season in all comps. I mean, they had their 1 win away from home was against Colchester. And the only other game they didn't concede 2 or more goals in away from home was a 0-0 away at Everton. And Everton are terrible in attack, so that's not entirely surprising. yeah, I think there will be some goals. I don't see us keeping a clean sheet because they'll be better at attacking us than Leicester were. But I do think we can probably get the win when we get to the predictions in a few minutes. I'm probably not going to predict a win because I think now I have learned my lesson that I can never predict a game for us to win ever again. Because every time I think, I was really confident going into the West Ham game. It was pathetic. I expected a good response against Palace. It was pathetic, and ever since then it's gotten better.
Mhm.
So it's fine. Other than the Brentford game, which was laughable in the second half. But you know what? I thought we'd respond in the second half. So you know what? I'm never allowed to be positive for the rest of my life. I will now be a source of negativity for everyone around me. Speaking of predictions, I mean, Ryan, if you start us off, who do you think might have a good game against Brentford, given their form away from home, and then what would your score prediction be?
Yeah, it's tough to say, I guess. I mean, I do think, these cup games can be different. It's a chance for something different. It's a fresh start. You're not looking necessarily at your league form this time, and it's a one-legged game, right? It's everything you've got, chance to get to a semi-final. And to be honest, it'll be something Brentford will be targeting themselves, right? So I don't think it's going to be an easy game. I think again, winning that battle in midfield is going to be key. We know how Brentford play. They are a tidy side, and they can be quite physical in the middle at times as well. With some of the Danish boys they've got in there. I think. Well, again, I think it's been a recurring theme though, going back to important players for Newcastle and who could have a good game. I think it's going to be important for Lewis Hall because Mbeumo is by far and away Brentford's informed man. I mean, I think he's got 10, 11 goals in the Prem already this season, which is pretty impressive, really. So yeah, he's going to be the man that I think we need to nullify. So, and Hull has done a good job of it at home. We've seen players like Saka, Salah. You could argue for 60 minutes. I know he got 2 goals, but his quality did kind of tell. But yeah, Hull important, and then I think Isak putting his chances away. So yeah, we'll see. In terms of prediction, though, I will go for a 3-1 Newcastle win. I think.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the first goal is going to be
slightly
crucial.
bold. Yes, yeah, that's true. Probably. But Bo, what about you? Any particular players you are looking to keep an eye on in the Brentford game, and then your prediction?
No specific players, but I will say just the midfield in general. Hoping to see some consistency from the last couple of weeks. Hoping to see Tonali at a 6 and Bruno at an 8. And if it's Joelinton or if Eddie decides to try and put Willock in there to maybe have a bit more pace. Really want to see just that midfield 3 work together and work well. Because we all know last couple of games, if they're not clicking, the team falls apart. So. Definitely the midfield is what I'll be looking for. And I will say for a prediction, I'll go with 2-1. I with a win 2-1. And I feel like what will probably happen is I wouldn't be surprised if Brentford steals a goal early. And we kind of have to claw our way back. I'm really hoping that the crowd is up for it. Starts out hot, and doesn't get too frustrated if things don't go our way. Because, we've seen it in the past where all it takes is 1 goal, and all you hear is grumbles from the stands. So I'll go with a 2-1 win.
Nice. I don't know who. I mean, I think for me, it's going to be looking an eye on the back line. I mean, Ryan, you mentioned Hall up against Mbeumo. I think in the game that in the 4-2 loss, it was that right hand side of Mbeumo at right wing back, and Vissa caused us some problems. They tried to pull apart Hall, Burn, and Joelinton. And they did it well against Joelinton. He had a really, really poor game. I don't know if they'll try the same thing, that their shape changes depending on from game to game, and they try to combat their opponents. They have been really struggling not just to score away from home, but just to create many good chances. I mean, in the cup especially, I mean, they in the last round they only beat Sheffield Wednesday on penalties. They weren't, and that was at home. They weren't able to generate much against a lower league side. I mean, lower league sides can frustrate you at times, but with the form they've had at home, to not beat Wednesday was a slight surprise. They beat, I think, Leyton Orient in the round before that, and Leyton Orient are awful. They're woeful. So they have struggled a little bit to create when it comes to the cup games. Their only away win this season was in a cup game, and that was against Colchester, and they were only able to generate 1 goal against Colchester, despite dominating the game. So I think they will struggle a little bit coming up here. I'm not going to be overly positive. My to appease the football gods, I'm going to say 1-1. But if I was being positive, I'm not being positive. If I was to be positive, I would probably predict a 2-1 win for Newcastle. I mean, they are just really poor away from home. They struggle to create. And as long as Tonali's playing, which I really hope he is, he's really good at disrupting play. He's a real press leader. And I think as long as we protect the back line, we can limit their chances. I think that would be really, really important. The thing you don't want at the moment is you do not want what happened last time we played them, which was a combo of Carvalho, Igor Thiago, Vissa, and Mbuemo all running at our back four, and then finding themselves in one-on-ones and being able to pick people apart. Hence, finding space, and hence we concede 4 goals, including a couple of low-quality shot locations. I think 1-1 to appease the football gods, and then if I was being positive, again, I'm not. I would predict a 2-1 win, maybe. But other than that, I mean, I think that just about covers it. I think we'd be happy with that, with those sorts of results. I don't think we might get a clean sheet, but I'll take any positive result at the moment. Any remote bit of consistency would be a positive for me.
I'd back us against most teams. Cup midweek under the lights. The fans will be right up for it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, excellent. Well, guys, slightly shorter episode for today, but thank you very much. I'm looking forward to talking to you. We'll have a chat, another episode sometime after the Brentford game. Hopefully into the next round of the cup. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, do leave us a like, subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, and leave us your score prediction in the comments. How much do you think we're going to lose by against Brentford with another inconsistent performance? Or how much are we going to make Martin Dubravka look like the second coming of Lev Yashin and batter them? Either way. But thank you very much for watching, and see you later.
Cheers.